A brief introduction of myself and what I do. My name is Stefano D'Onofrio, and I'm a software engineer. Below here, you can find my contact details if you want to keep in touch with me or ask any question. The company I work for is Pitpat, and at the moment we are proud to be the #1 activity dog activity monitor in UK. So we are based in Cambridge, and we are currently using the latest .NET technologies in our product. And since we are always growing and looking for some talented software developers, QA or DevOps, if you are interested, please apply to this email. So the agenda of this speech will be mainly divided in two parts. The first part is the more theoretical one and contains a brief introduction about OAuth2 and OpenId Connect. So honestly, I'm not going really deeply to the details in this part because the topic is really huge. And there are plenty of discussion about the various aspects involved in this protocol. I just want you to be able to work with the OAuth2 and the OpenID Connect, and hopefully at the end of this speech, I mean, yeah, you got an idea. The second part is more practical, and I guess will be more interesting, or yeah, I hope so. And will be we will see how to implement this OpenID and OAuth2 in ESP.NET Core environment. Then at the end, if you want, there is question time where you can ask some question, and I will hopefully answer to that question. So let's start with the, okay, let's consider this scenario, okay? Let's imagine our life because, before OAuth2 was released, okay? So let's imagine that OAuth2 is not already implemented, okay? We got an app that allow us to call social media API on our behalf in an automatic way. So, for example, I don't know if anyone of you have used, but Buffer will be a really good example of this. What the app needs to do, obviously, to work, actually, it is need to communicate and use this API of the different social media service that we got. And in order to do that, the social media manager app has to store the username and password for each social media that is connected to. So, for example, it has to store the Facebook username and password, the LinkedIn credential, the Google credential. I think anyone can find a big, really big security hole in this case, at least two. I think one of them, and this is really bad, is that a third-party app is having the login credential of actually other services. So as a customer, I won't rely on an app that is storing my Facebook user credential or LinkedIn user credential or Google user credential. Another bad point of really bad points of this approach is that the app at this point get a complete control of all the social media registered with that. So, for example, if you are storing our Facebook credential, I mean, the app could definitely call whatever API it wants without having user consent for it. How do we solve this problem? Okay, luckily we got something that is called OAuth2. Anyone knows what is OAuth2? If, yeah, eventually you can, I mean, put a comment in the chat or whatever.
I don't. There we go.
Okay. So, one important thing. Never say that OAuth2 is about authentication. Never make this mistake. A lot of companies have used OAuth2 as an authentication protocol. For example, Facebook in the old days used that as authentication protocol, and this caused a really big security hole in their system. Okay. But yeah, what is OAuth2? OAuth2 is a standard, I would say, is a standard token-based authorization protocols that allow third-party clients limited access to protected resources. I think this should be one one of the best definition that I can give of OAuth2. Okay, we'll see later in this speech that OAuth2 introduced some concept that is, for example, the access token. So having this access token, you will become authorized to use specific API and so on. Yeah, but we will see this later. Okay, now we have talked about OAuth2, but what about OpenID Connect? OpenID Connect is an extension of OAuth2. It's a standard authentication protocol built on top of OAuth2. Actually, it does have the OAuth2 feature, but introduce other concepts about authentication. And for example, the ID token will be an example of it. Okay, so to clarify the difference between authorization and authentication, what we can say is that authentication is about who you are, okay? Authorization is about what you can do. If I have to give an example of this, I would say that the driving license will be a quite good example. So depending on the point of view, you can consider the driving license as an assertion that you are who you claim to be, authentication, or under another point of view, you can gain the possibility just to drive a car. So you are allowed to drive a car, you are authorized to drive a car. And this is obviously authorization. Okay, great. So OpenID Connect. Actually, there are different versions of OpenID Connect. This version is even called OpenID Connect Flows or grant type. Okay, I think you should understand each of them in order to work with the OpenID Connect and OAuth2. Anyone have got knows how many they are. Yeah, they are at least 7. So we got 7 green types that you should know in order to use OpenID Connect. That are authorization code flow with PXE, implicit flow, device flow, hybrid flow, resource owner and password flow, client credential flow. Okay, guys, I just got a picture of all of you face right now, and yeah, it's unbearable. I was lying before. It's not possible to understand all this flow in order to understand OpenID Connect, you know. So luckily, nowadays we need only 2 flows that can be used for everything, definitely for everything. We got the authorization code flow with PXE that can be used for interactive scenario. So when we need user interaction, basically. Then we got the client credential flow when the user interaction is not needed. Now, let's see how works the authorization code flow with PXE. Sorry, the authorization code flow we are going to see. Then with PXE is like authorization code flow, but it does add another security mechanism in it. So I would say that is an extension of the authorization code flow, but more secure. But yeah, for now we will see the authorization code flow. As you can see in the diagram, we got different actors in this game. So we got the resource owner, that is typically the end user. We got the client, that is the application that can make request on behalf of the resource owner after he gave the consent to access to a particular resource. Then we got the authorization server, that is the actually the server that issues the tokens. So, for example, in OpenID scenario will be the access token and the ID token. And then we got another actor that is not shown in this diagram, but is quite important as well. That is the resource server. So the resource server is something that is able to accept or respond to a request for a protected resource through via the authorization with the access token. So sometimes this resource server resides on the same host of the authorization server. Sometimes it's not, but yeah, these are details. Now we are going to see the various steps that is made in order to implement this authorization code flow. So this is a sample of the authorization request. The client, with this authorization request, we could say that the client initiates the flow directing the resource owner user agent to a particular endpoint that is present in the authorization server. That is, and this endpoint is called the authorization endpoint. Okay. The parameter that we are passing to this authorization endpoint, so for example, in this case is authorize, the parameter that we are passing, so for example, in this example, is code. What does it mean? It means that, for example, we are telling the kind of response that we want from the authorization endpoint. With code, we are saying that we want an authorization code response from the authorization endpoint. But yeah, we will see this in a bit. Then we got the scope. Okay, pay attention to this. I think the scope is one of the key elements of OAuth2 and OpenID Connect. Yeah, scope is a OAuth2 mechanism, let's say is an OAuth2 mechanism to limit application access to a particular resource, okay? The client, in this case, in our case, the client is asking for actually for a particular resource, and is asking for is asking to the authorization server to obtain access to a resource identified with the scope name. So, for example, in this case, we are asking OpenID, profile, and email. The OpenID scope is a little bit is a standard scope, and is a special one. Actually, with the OpenID scope, we are starting in OpenID Connect request, an OpenID Connect flow. Okay. If you don't find the OpenID scope in the authorization request, it means that we are using OAuth2. If you are finding it, it means that we are using OpenID Connect. Okay. Then other scope that we are requesting here are profile and yeah, email. So in this case, we are saying, I just want to access to all the profile resource and to the email resource. Okay. Perfect. Then what we got? We got the client ID. Oh, I forgot to mention, before to start this flow, one important thing that needs to be done is that the client has to be registered with the authorization server. Okay, so the authorization server has to know the has to know the client, is client ID, and I mean, yeah, the client has to be set on the authorization server side. So we are passing the this client ID, and the at this point the authorization server can identify the client that is making the request. Okay. By the way, we are going to see all this stuff later in the code quite easily. In this authorization request, we are passing even a state. What is a state? The state is an APAC value that is used by the client to maintain the state between the authorization request and the authorization response. Okay, and as last parameter, we are passing this redirect URI. Now, when we are registering the client with the authorization server, as a configuration field, we have to set even the redirect URI of that client. What is needed for this redirect URI? This redirect URI, with this redirect URI, we are telling to the authorization server, which is the address where it should send the authorization response. Okay. Now, in this case, we are passing given the redirect URI. This is for one reason, even for some security reason. And actually, we should make sure that this redirect URI that we are passing in the authorization request match exactly with the one that we have registered on the authorization server. Okay, so now we got the step 2. If the user, so what the authorized endpoint does, it does check if the user is already authenticated, and if it is not, redirect the resource owner's user agent to an authentication page, where the resource owner, so the user, okay, could grant or deny the request. We got a response. So we have done, there are even some validation mechanism in step A and not in step A, sorry, mainly step B. There are some validation mechanism that I'm not going to tell you now because, yeah, they require quite a lot. But, yeah. And this step C, you can see that is a response where to the URI that we sent it before on the authorization request, you see, and is sent an authorization code back to the to this redirect endpoint. Okay. We are going to see in a bit what is authorization code is used for. One important thing that we should notice is that the state value here is definitely equal to this one. Okay, so in this way we have bound the authorization request and the authorization response. Now let's see the step 2. On the step, the step D. On the step D, the client is request token from the authorization server token endpoint. Okay, that is is doing this request to the authorization server token endpoint, and actually is passing this parameter here. One of these is the grant type. So with this grant type, we are telling to the token endpoint that we are using the authorization code flow. Another things that we are doing here is that we are passing the authorization code that we received in the previous step, you remember? And then we are passing again the this redirect URI to the token endpoint. As you can see here, we got in the header the authorization basic. What does this mean? When we are actually, this is even called token request, and when we are doing this token request, we are even trying to authenticate the client to the authorization server. So this basic, this field here actually is if the, so for example, if the client when it's registered, sometimes they have even the client secret field with it, right? So if that client secret is set up, this authorization basic is actually the client credential. So it's a client ID and client secret separated by a column, and that is encoded in base 64. The token endpoint should check if the client ID and client secret match with the one that is registered. If it is not, it means that the token request is invalid. Okay. Finally, at step A, we are receiving the token that we want. So we got this access token, we got the identity token. Actually, we got even another token, refresh token, but we are going to see this in a, what this means in a bit. Okay. So let's see the core actually of OAuth2 and more specifically of OpenID Connect protocol. The core of OAuth2 and OpenID Connect are the tokens, right? So if I have to describe an access token, I would say that is a credential used to access a protected resource. And this is the key of the authorization part of OAuth2, okay? In fact, represent an authorization issued by the authorization server to the client to access to a protected resource on behalf of the resource owner. We can have two type of access token. I will say just this just quickly. We have the JSON. So the access token could be a JSON web token. Okay, we will see this in the demo. So in the demo that I'm going to present you, the access token is JWT. But then we have even another representation of the access token, that is the reference token, okay? We are going to see that for security purposes, I always suggest to use the reference token instead of the JWT for a certain reason that, yeah, later I'm going to explain. Another things that another important token in actually this is OpenID Connect stuff is the identity token. So the identity token is a credential used to authenticate user on the client side. Okay, should be used to validate that a user is who he claims to be. Okay. At the end, we got this final concept of refresh token. Now, if we go back for a bit, if we are going to see this authorization request here, okay? If in the scope we are adding another special one that is called offline access, okay? This means that we are requesting a particular token that is exactly the refresh token. But what is the refresh token? The refresh token is used to refresh access or identity token after they are expired. Okay, so the access token and the identity token have an expiration time with them. Okay. Depending on the scenario that we are working on, could be set to a different value. There is no unique way to identify the expiration time that is suggested for an access token, for example. But yeah, the refresh token is something that we can use to refresh these tokens. Now, I just list here some trick and security consideration that we might have in OAuth2. Okay, first of all, to avoid cross-site request forgery attack. So in order to avoid this kind of attack, what we can do in OAuth2, so we got this kind of security concern, and then we got even the token stealing. So someone that is steal our token and actually could use on our behalf without any problem, okay? Any problem, yeah, is a security hole. I mean, yeah. So regarding the cross-site request forgery, one thing that we have to do is do an exact matching of the redirect URI. This is really important. I heard some story about the EA sport company that was having a huge amount of problem because of this, because they didn't match exactly the redirect URI. They just matched the some part of the URI, but not completely. And yeah, this is bad. Don't do that. Another thing that we should do is always use PXE. As we are going to see, Indentity Server luckily help us with this. So actually, it will set PXE automatically. All the PXE parts of the authorization code flow is done automatically by Indentity Server. And always, obviously, always use state parameter in order, as I said before, to bind the authorization request and the authorization response. Okay. Regarding the token stealing, to avoid token stealing, what we should do, obviously, we shouldn't pass the token in the query string. Yeah, that's bad. Some of the grant types that I listed you before does follow that approach, but yeah, honestly, I will consider that approach as really deprecated. Another things that we can do, if we can, just use reference token. Okay. So finally, this is what we have done till now is just a little part of OpenID and OAuth2 protocol. Obviously, we won't implement this protocol from scratch in our .NET application, right? I mean, it's a really, really huge amount of work to be done because there are plenty of validation and security concern stuff that has to be considered. Thanks to Brock Allen and Dominic Bayer, we got Indentity Server 4. Now the version is the version 4. So what is Indentity Server 4? It's a framework, or maybe I will say is the framework for OpenID and OAuth2 in an ASP.NET Core environment. Okay. Now we have finished this part. Now, what I'm going to do. So yeah, first of all, everything is clear, or anyone has some question? I mean, this second part. In order to go to the second part, is good if you have understood the theory.
People are saying the chat is all good. Someone's asking, can you touch on the difference between OIDC and SAML2? A high level due to time.
Okay.
Can you see the chat, Stefan?
Yes, I can. So I remember to have used SAML2. Tell me if I'm wrong in this case. So if I remember well, the SAML2 is just an authentication protocol, but I'm not completely sure. If you want, yeah, if you give me your, maybe at the end, your email, Michael, I will send you a response about that. But if I remember well, SAML2 was just about authentication, and even the protocol is quite different. Actually, the SAML2 should be quite an old mechanism. and is completely yeah. Actually, why use yeah, for authentication now? Normally we use OpenID Connect. So I would say that a difference between SAML2 and OIDC is mainly even that OIDC OpenID Connect is token based, and SAML2, as far as I remember, is not token based. So, which is the reason of the parameter state in the authorization? Yes, we need that. So, as I said before, with this state parameter, actually what we are doing is to bind the authorization request with the authorization response in our case. Okay, and this is yeah, is quite important in order to be sure that no other actor is interfering in our communication here. Mainly, the main reason of all of these parameters are, why all these parameters are sent is mainly because for to avoid cross-site request forgery attacks. Okay. Okay, I believe that. Looking to the film.
Yeah, it seems to be told.
Okay. Okay. Now let's have a look to this demo. Okay. So what I've done here, I divided this Cambridge demo solution inside 4 projects. So we got the authorization server, we got the client, we got, actually this is a client that is using authorization code flow with Pixie, okay? We got another client. This other client, it just use client credential flow. And then we got this resource server that just gave us some, yeah, just host some resource that we, yeah, that we want. Okay. Now, let's start to see how it is implemented, the authorization server. One thing that I would like to mention is that Indentity Server is magic, act really like magic. So sometimes it's really not needed to have plenty of code that that can't be needed. So for example, this code here, you can see, this code here is our setting of Indentity Server in a demo environment, obviously. But yeah, there's no need for adding other huge amount of code. And another things that we need on the authorization server stuff is to add the Indentity Server endpoint here on the pipeline. Okay. Now, let's consider. Let's discuss what we are doing here. So we got our IOC, our services to be injected in the IOC container. And what we are doing, we are adding the Indentity Server service. This service, it does have some option inside. So for example, in this line, I'm just saying to Indentity Server, look, when you have to show the login page, just go to this route, okay? That is under yeah, we will see this rule later. And other things that I'm doing here, just adding some logging inside Indentity Server. Okay. Now, what we are doing here, I just added some test user, okay, where, yeah, I put it 2 users in our system, in our demo system. One is for Andrea Angela, that is a software engineer, okay, and another one is me, Stefano D'Onofrio, I'm the manager. We are here, so one thing that we are going to see in a bit is that mainly the JWT, the JSON Web Token, is divided in 3 parts, okay? The last part of a JSON Web Token is a signing. So here, all the JSON Web Token that they are used will be signed, okay? And for signing purpose, we are just using some dummy in this demo, just some dummies and credential, okay? Another things that we are doing, you remember what I mentioned you before, we are adding some clients to Indentity Server. We are registering our clients. So we are taking our clients from the application settings in this case, okay? And as you can see, we got 2 clients here. One is client 1, that is, is Cambridge demo client, that is this one, okay? And the other one is Cambridge demo client 2, that is the terminal one. Both of them have a client secret. Here, as you can see, we are setting some expiration lifetime for the refresh token and for the access token as well. Later, if you got time, we are going to play a little bit with this access token lifetime. With this parameter here, for example, we are saying that the authorization code flow is allowed for the Cambridge demo client. And one important thing that I would like you to notice is this allowed scope, okay? With this allowed scope, we are saying, okay, client 1, so Cambridge demo client, is allowed to request OpenID, offline access, profile, email, phone, Cambridge demo API, and company scope, okay? And these are all the scope that are allowed for this Cambridge demo client, okay? We got even other parameters here. Another important one, really important, is this redirect URI that, again, has to match with the one that we are sending during the authorization request. But yeah, these are the, I would say that these are the most important one, okay? Later, we are going to see deeply how the, deeply, we are going to see how the account controller for logging purposes are and the logout purposes are is implemented. We are going to see even another controller that is the consent one, and this allowed to the user to give this consent or not to the requested scope. And yeah, these are these 2 main ones. But let's move on. Another things that you would like to, I think you would like to see, is this Cambridge demo client. So this is the client. One thing that I'm really excited about this client is that under certain point of view, this client, in order to work with OpenID Connect, does need even less code than the authorization server. So here we are having the OpenID client, and mainly, apart from 2 lines of code somewhere that is doing, yeah, is just using these credentials here. Now, I'm going to run the app, and let's see how that works, if that works. I'm joking. Hopefully it will. Wait a second. So this is our client, okay? We got this login page. So as you can see here, so what we have done, we clicked on the login. The client started the authorization request to the authorization server, and the authorization server does understand that the client is not authenticated, and we got here on the login page, okay? If I'm logging as Andrea, what happens? It will be requested through the consent screen all the scope that I have to give my grant. So, for example, I requested my email address, I requested the profile scope, I requested the phone number, and all these other scope. So one thing that is important here is that this personal information is our identity scope, okay? So this will be OpenID, will be email, profile, phone number. These are all identity scope. And usually they are they deal with the identity token, okay? This other one, on the application access, we got these that are resource scope, and they are mainly related to access token, to the access token. I allow. We are logged in. Yay. So if we go to the OAuth info, we got all this information I can show you. So this is the structure of identity token. You can see the identity token actually is a JWT and is divided in 3 parts. We got an header, we got the body, and we got the signature of this identity token. Remember, the identity token, when we receive the response, has to be validated. So this signature has to be checked, and if it is not valid, yeah, the ID token is not valid. Okay. So here we got some parameters. Some of them I won't explain all of them. I mean, yeah. So for example, here we got some information. We got, for example, the sub, that is the ID actually of the user, in this case Andrea. But one thing that you could notice is that we had no profile information or phone number information or email address information as we requested. Why? So there is another endpoint in the authorization server that is called user info endpoint. And this endpoint allows us to maintain the identity token quite small. If we had to add a lot of information in the identity token, okay, this will become quite big. And so what we are doing at this point, we are receiving the identity token and the access token on the token response, Immediately after, our middleware, OpenID Connect middleware, what is doing another request using the access token to the user info endpoint, okay, and get back all the other information that we want. How can I prove that? I got the user claim, and look here, what we got: the given name, the family name, the email. So we got the information that we asked in the authorization request, okay? And this is done mainly to maintain the identity code token quite small. One thing that I would like you to notice is the audience. So the audience is about what that token is intended to. In case of identity token, this audience has to have the value of the client ID of the value of the client ID. In our case, would be the Cambridge demo client. Okay. Now we got another part. This is the access token. Again, this is a JWT, and we got the other body in the signature. And here we can see all the scope that we have requested in the authorization request. And the most important, this is the audience, okay, that this access token is intended for, okay? So this is the intention of the access token. Now, there is one other thing that I would like you to show you. So this is the resource server, okay? And what the resource server it does have just a document repository. So this is my document repository with some free documents here. And we got a document controller that just serves as check if the request is valid, and then returns the resource that is requested. Okay. Now, one thing that I would like you to notice is that we are adding an identity server authentication. I think, under certain point of view, this name is a little bit misleading, but yeah, is how it is. Actually, these have some information in it, and for example, this is the audience that is requested in order to run the document controller API. So we are adding here a kind of first policy. Okay, in order to run the document controller, one thing that has to be done, we need an access token where the audience is set to API name, sorry, Cambridge demo API. Okay. Now, another thing that we are doing is to add other policies. So we are adding other policies in this sense. So we have one policy that is saying is a scope policy, and we are saying that this authorization policy will require this company scope in it. Okay, is audience. Okay, and another one, I created a custom authorization handler, that is this one, and what it does is just check if the sender does have the rights to access to that document. So if we go to the repository, we can see that this document here, the personal document, have a field that is owner. So for example, the software document, it will be owned by Andrea, and the employer document will be owned by me. So let's call this API. First of all, we are going to use scope one. Let me put just a breakpoint here. Okay, I just got a breakpoint here. Actually, I'm using the authorization cell. I could put the authorized attributes here, but I prefer to use the authorization service. I think because it's, I feel like it's more testable. Okay, makes things more testable. Now, here we are. We got dummy node. We are authorizing. We are seeing if you are authorized to following this scope policy. So we are checking if the access token does have some audience. And yeah, the authorization was succeeded. So we can return the result back, don't we? Yeah. This is not true, by the way. Yeah. Then I got another document here asking for the same. Here we are. So we are seeing how that works quite easily. So one thing to notice is that which is the amount of code that I have to write in order to do this. Have you seen this? I mean, it's this one. And yeah, I just feel that like exciting. So let's see what about the personal one, okay? So we will see the personal one. So for example, no, this is bad, the wrong name. So what we got the software document. Here. And yeah, this is the best software document I ever saw. And but the most important one I think will be if I try to access to the employer document. What happens? Yeah, user is not authorized. Why? Because I'm Andrea and I'm trying to access to a Stefano result. And I think this is the core, the basic of OAuth2. It's really this is really the authorization part. Now, I just another things that I would like to do is just to show you quite briefly how the client credential flow works. So one thing, one endpoint that I didn't mention to you is the discovery endpoint. Okay, so there is this endpoint that could be used in order to get all the information about the authorization server or all the endpoints about the authorization server. So for example, in this case, we are using this discovery endpoint to get the token, the address of the token endpoint, okay? Now, here I'm just using a library that is called Indentity Model. Actually, is the client side of the guys that make Indentity Server made even the identity model. And actually, this is to talk to Indentity Server manually. So what this identity model package do is to allows me to, so in that package, there is this extension method that allows me to make this client request to the authorization server. But actually in the client credential flow, the authorization endpoint is not used at all. So will be used, is just a two-way communication, okay? So sending the request, receiving the response, and that's all. And here we are passing the client ID, the client secret, the scope, and then we are calling a specific API in the document controller, okay? That will be this one, okay? So let's put just the breakpoints here. We'll start this as well. Okay. So let me put another breakpoint here in order to see. So I press one key. A token request will be done directly to the authorization server, hopefully. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah. And is error? No, we already got a token response. So what this token response will contain? The identity token you can see is null, but we got this access token. Okay. Now, using this access token, we are just going to call our API. Sorry? Oh, sorry, just it's not loaded the resource server. Yeah. What is happening here? Oh, it's loaded. Yeah.
It's the curse of live demos.
Always the case. It's happening all the time.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I mean, trust me. This is a call to the resource server. I will give another shot, but okay.
E.
Now, so yeah, don't know what is happening here. Okay, yeah. But by the way, the really the client client credential flow is really simple as this. Okay. Now, yeah. I guess I can answer some question if you have some. Can I show you something? This is really good question. Look at it. The point is there is a
Stefano,
real.
If you can,
Yeah?
you can say the question aloud for the recording.
Oh,
The
sorry.
chat won't be
Yeah.
visible.
What? Yeah. Sorry. What flow would you use for an Angular application? Okay. So this is something that is under. It's really under discussion, mainly for. If you consider even every SPA application. So one of the architecture is to have backend side of the SPA application. So what I will do, honestly, and actually is not what I did in the client, but it's quite similar. I mean similar, yeah. So here I'm making some Ajax request to an internal API that I got in the client, and this will make the request behind the scenes. So for me, why I'm saying this? I'm saying this for the reason that the token has not to be on the front end side. Okay, this is really important. Token not on the on the front end side. And if we should have, if we must have this token in the front end side, I would say that they should have an expiration time of 1 minute or something like that. Yeah, maybe not 1 minute, but some short time. Okay. Hope. Okay, that's another good question. So actually, Identity Server, one thing's that identity, so if you consider under certain point of view, the user info endpoint, okay, so you remember when I showed you that not all the claims were in the identity token. That's why we immediately after receiving the identity token, we are using the access token to get this claim, so get this resource to the user info endpoint, right? So one cool thing of Identity Server is to that allows you to add other endpoints in it, so you can customize eventually. And this is really important. I mean, it's really useful for this kind of case. But another things that we could do is just even add the policies as we have done in here on the Identity Server side. Okay? On the authorization server side. Any other question?
I had one. So I just wanted to, are you using Identity Server at your work, where you're working at the moment?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if I can, yeah. I would say every, yeah.
I just wanted to know, so I don't know what your environment is, but say if you're on Azure, you'd use generally something like Active Directory, AWS Cognito. Was there a reason why you chose to roll your own authentication authorization server? And have you had any difficulties with that as opposed to going with, say, an open
So
source?
you are asking, if I understood well, you are asking if the other providers like Active Directory or how these other providers fit in Identity Server. Is that correct? Is that the question?
Because it looks to me, I might be misunderstanding this, that Identity Server is doing a lot of what those identity providers would do for you. It almost seems like you're taking control of that and doing it yourself. and why you would want to do that as opposed to just going with them instead.
So one thing to mention is that Indentity Server, under certain point of view, could use even other identity provider. Okay, so for example, there is a concept of or a pattern, not a concept, a pattern that is called Federation Gateway, where other identity provider, Indentity Server act as a middleware of all the other identity provider. Now, I'm not completely sure how Active Directory fit in a public scenario. So, for example, if we are in, so for example, if this user has to be part of a company or something like that, for me it does make sense to use Active Directory. If it is something more public, I would use honestly Active Directory as just as an identity provider, and use Indentity Server act as a middleware of it. But yeah, to be honest, I'm not completely sure on how Active Directory fit with that. So, is there any concept of nested authorization? Robert is asking. Into the resource acquisition. For example, how might I make it so any manager can access a document rather than we? Oh, okay. So one thing that this is about. So this is a really interesting question by Robert. So one thing that I didn't show you here, or maybe I did, but is that we got this claim here that is a role claim, okay? What we can do when we are setting our resource, for example here, is that, for example, for the company scope, we are adding a role. We are saying in this way, add the role claim in the access token that have as an audience the company scope, okay? So that this allows us to do even role-based authorization in this side. So at this point, we will have even the role claim, and you can, so for example, in this case, we can say that the software engineer can use some particular APIs of the document controller, and the manager can use others. Okay. Now, Active Directory can use as Indentity Server can then add on. Indentity doesn't really have an authorization component. Yeah, great. Totally, your client doesn't need to change when you implement new identity provider. What to this? I'm not.
Those are not questions. That's mostly.
Oh yeah. Okay. Any other question? Or I missed them?
My last one would just be, do you have a certain revocation strategy you like to use? So say if tokens get compromised.
Yeah, definitely. One reason why I suggest to use reference token for, so you remember I mentioned that the access token could be of two types, a JWT or a reference token, okay? While the JWT cannot be revoked, the reference token is something that we can revoke. If we are going to see here in the code, in this code, that by the way you can find to the GitHub, my GitHub repository, so you can have a look at it.
Share a link later.
Better later. So you see here what I'm doing. On logout, I'm revoking the refresh token. So one thing that I'm doing here, if even the access token, if the access token will be, in this case, a reference token, other than the refresh token, I would revoke even the access token. But yeah, one policy that I will definitely use is to revoke all the token that you can revoke. So in this case, only the refresh token on logout.
I see, no, that's great, thank you. And then, so if you wanted to do that, say, without them logging out, do you just have, say, like an endpoint that you hit in an emergency that you just be like, okay, I want to cancel all of this?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Cool. Thank you.
How do you handle race condition with the one-time refresh token? For example, in Microsoft, there is stateless up. Actually, I'm not sure about that. So the point is, the depending on how you set the refresh token. So you see here, I got a reuse property on this refresh token. So eventually the refresh token can be used more than once.